Okay, we already have help on the way, so just take a deep breath, okay?
A new legal development in the case of a 16-year-old accused of brutally killing her own mother and her mother's boyfriend. It is the disturbing new case of Julia Egler. We discuss the latest with former NYPD detective Tom Smith. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. We have an update for you in a story out of Florida that we covered a few weeks back, and it is official. 16-year-old Julia Egler has officially been indicted by a grand jury on 2 counts of first-degree murder in connection with the savage killings of this teen's mom and her mom's boyfriend last month. And even though she is a minor, we are going to use her name because of the nature and severity of these alleged crimes. And it is a tough one to talk about because she is being tried as an adult, although she will not face the death penalty because the Supreme Court has held that it is unconstitutional to execute people who were under 18 at the time of the offense. But it doesn't take away from really the serious nature of these crimes. Now, if you recall, Egler allegedly called 911, reported a home invasion, told police that she and her dog were hiding while a burglar broke into the home through the sliding door. When she believes the intruder left, she walks out and she says she finds her mom, 38-year-old Kelly McCollom, and her boyfriend, 22-year-old Matthew Szejnrok, dead.
He broke into the house and I didn't have time to grab the phone, so I...
Do you know who the man is?
No, I don't know who it was.
Is he still in there?
I don't think so. I waited. I hid in my room for like a really long time. I don't even know how long it's been.
Okay, you're not sure how long it's been?
I'm not sure.
What did he look like?
It's hard to remember, but I think he had like, I don't know, like, he was normal height, I guess. If I had to guess, maybe like 5'8", I don't know. And
is he black, white, Hispanic?
I'm not sure. I think I didn't really look that good. I only got like...
What did he do once he got into your house?
Well, there was... I don't think the door was locked, but I don't think he knew that there was a hammer by the back. And,
was it your hammer, or did they bring it with them?
It was just the house hammer. It was just by the back.
Never know.
It was just by the back, and they grabbed, I think they thought the sound, they grabbed it and broke in the window.
They broke the window with a hammer that you already had in your yard?
Yeah, with the glass.
Okay, take a deep breath. You haven't heard them in a while, right?
Oh,
was there only one person that you saw?
That I saw, yeah. There was one person.
Okay, and where are you in the house right now?
I'm just in the living room.
Okay, we already have help on the way, so just take a deep breath, okay?
God, my mom, I think... I heard...
We have officers coming. Hey, take a deep breath. The people that you're hearing, we have 2 officers there, okay? They'll usually check outside first, so you might see flashlights. They'll probably come to the door and knock here in a little bit. It's okay. You still have your dogs with you?
They're just still in my room. I didn't let them out because I didn't want them getting blood all over their paws.
Right. Well, did you say blood all over their paws?
Yeah, because...
Is there blood inside your house?
Yes.
Whose blood is it? Is it your blood or is it the person who broke in blood? Are you injured?
No, I'm fine.
You're fine?
No,
so
it's
the person who broke in. It's their blood? Where is it at?
No, I don't know if it's their blood or not, but I don't think it's theirs. It's my mom. From what I heard when I was hiding in my room, I could have warned her. It's all my fault. If I had been able to grab the phone, then...
No, nothing is your fault. If someone broke into your house, nothing is your fault.
And the problem, though, for her is that according to authorities, the evidence led to a different conclusion. It wasn't adding up. For example, not only did she have trouble remembering the supposed intruder, or what the intruder's characteristics and look like, but there were bloody footprints from her shoes all over the house. Glass from the sliding door was on top of the bodies, and the home security camera video didn't show anyone breaking in. Not to mention what she allegedly also told police, and we're going to get to that as well. But for that, I want to bring in right now former NYPD detective Tom Smith to talk more about this. Tom, thanks so much for coming on. I think the best place to start with this is not even focusing so much on Julia Egler's case, but how often have you investigated crimes committed by minors?
Oh, it happens. And in this case, it is so typical of what happens when minors commit crimes. They go through the process of thinking about it and committing it, but they don't think about the afterwards, the story, the questions you're going to get answered. They're very into just covering their tracks and setting up a story to cover the murder or whatever it may be, but don't take into account what's going to happen afterwards. And this is a prime example of that.
And we're going to get to that. Are these different types of cases to investigate than when crimes are committed by adults? And if so, how?
It is, because you have to be very careful of the questioning and interrogations afterwards. Okay. When you have a homicide scene, you have to remember as a detective that trial starts as soon as you get to that scene. So everything you do after that has an impact on the trial and possibly the conviction of whoever the perpetrator might be. So that has to be on your mind at all times. And when it involves a minor, you have to be very careful with whatever the laws are in that state, with questioning, with holding them, with Miranda and all that. So all that has to be taken into consideration as soon as you get to that scene.
Hey, we're going to get right back to this absolutely crazy case in a second, but I want to call out one of our sponsors because it's with their support that helps make this show happen. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Look, if you get injured, this firm with their over 1,000 attorneys and dedicated team of case specialists, investigators, paralegals, may be who you want on your side. Verdicts and settlements in the multi-millions across the country, no upfront fee. The whole process can be done straight from your smartphone. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar. I have to tell you, I think one of the things that stands out to me about this case more than anything, and this is about what law enforcement did, is you have a report from a 16-year-old girl saying 2 adults in the house, including her mom, are dead. You would think automatically law enforcement would take her word for it, right? I mean, my gosh, what a traumatic scene. Of course somebody else did this. But for them to take a minute, a pause, carefully see that the evidence wasn't adding up, that I think is so interesting, because eventually investigators also questioned Egler, but the fact that they took a beat and they were like, something's not adding up about her story, that was one of the things that I have a tip off to hats off to law enforcement, I should say, because that's impressive.
Yeah, and you know what? You try. Sometimes it's hard when you try as a detective, though, to walk into any scene you go to with an open mind, not to make a conclusion before you get there or as soon as you get there. You have to keep all the options open when you go in. So at first, of course, you have a possible other victim who's scared, frightened, terrorized. Their mom was just killed, maybe right in front of them. We don't know yet. So you have to take that into account. But like you said, taking that step back, taking a breath, and then analyzing and taking a visual look of what's in front of you leads to the next steps of a opinion or, the line of questioning you're going to go at this person with.
And you kind of mentioned it before, but crimes that are committed by minors, I would imagine, are easier to prove. There's more evidence there than maybe one committed by an adult. I feel like they have less resources, they have less experience. You mentioned it's kind of more, they do it and they don't think about the consequences after. Would I be fair to say that?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it's typical that they'll plan out what they want to do. That happens. The plan is in place. the execution is in place, but they don't take into account, because they're not mature enough to play out the entire scenario of what's going to take place afterwards, with questioning and re-questioning and all that. So that's where, when you're dealing with a juvenile, it's patience, because if they did do it, you'll eventually get there, but you have to be patient in that route to get there.
And I mentioned that investigators, they questioned Egler. She eventually, allegedly, came clean with a pretty shocking confession or admission, and she allegedly confessed to killing her mother and her mother's boyfriend. And before we even get into what she said, one of the things I was curious about as well, because I've been covering, unfortunately, a lot of these cases, and it seems to me that minor defendants, minor suspects, they end up revealing a lot to law enforcement. Is that typical as well?
Yeah, because of the pressure. They can't take the pressure of it. And when you have an adult, a detective, two detectives, questioning you about this, the pressure is overwhelming and they just can't handle it. They don't have the maturity to handle it. And that's when you get your confession.
And again, before we get into it, how is interviewing minors different? If you're trying to solicit information from them, if you're trying to solicit a confession, I've seen these tapes before. It's a very different skill set than interviewing a suspected husband, a suspected wife, a friend, an adult, right? There's a different skill set there, a different technique.
100%. You have to come down to their level to a point. Like I used to do, just as an example, if I had a minor or someone of a younger age, I wouldn't even start talking about the crime right away. I would start talking about sports, the weather, what their hobbies are, how's school going, all things like that, to get in their mind that I'm just with them and part of them and can handle whatever they're going to say, and kind of become a friend or a mentor or an adult figure that they're going to drop their guard and start trusting me. If you go just right at them all the way, that's tough to do because they're going to get very defensive and shut down.
Sometimes it depends upon the minor as well. Some easier to open up than others, to get to open up than others. Okay, so now let me tell you what she allegedly said. So she claims that she apparently, since she broke into her mom's bedroom, stole her .38 caliber revolver while the couple were out. Then she goes into the kitchen where she grabs a chef's knife and she waits. So if we're talking about premeditation, this is a classic example. When the two came home at around 10:30 p.m., she claims she greeted them in the kitchen, the gun in her hand, the knife in her pocket, and then she allegedly says, "Welcome home." She said that she shot her mother multiple times, killing her. Then she allegedly points the gun at Matthew, who she claims pleaded for his life, and police say that she shot him again and again and again until she ran out of bullets, and then she started stabbing him with the chef's knife, excuse me. And she allegedly admitted to police that Matthew essentially asked her to take him out of his misery, so she returned to her mother's bedroom, loaded one more round into the handgun, shot him in the head, getting a little more descriptive there. And in the hour and a half before Egler called 911, she seemingly tried to stage the scene to look like a break-in, but as I mentioned, the cover-up really didn't fool police. Tom, how can a 16-year-old allegedly do that?
That's a lot of evil and a lot of hate. I've said this before, sometimes there's just evil in the world. Sometimes people are just filled with an evil intent. And this is one of them. You could try to break it down all you want, but in the end, it is just an evil, premeditated act. And you can't, like you just said, you can't get more premeditated than this. This was set up. This was scheduled. This was planned. And even afterwards, I don't think the whole staging thing was a just off-the-cuff thing. I think that was also planned afterwards. Like, I'm going to do this. No one's going to be around. I'm going to have time to stage this whole thing. I think all of this was a plan.
You might be saying, well, what's the motive, right? That's the million-dollar question. What's the motive? And of course, we say it all the time. Prosecutors at a trial, they don't have to prove motive. It's not an element of the crime, but it helps tell a story. A jury needs to hear it. They need to understand why a young girl would kill her mother in cold blood and her mother's boyfriend. Well, she had apparently some long-standing conflicts with her mother. Apparently, she disapproved of her mom dating a man who was 16 years younger. And there had also reportedly been disagreements about Julia's decision to gender transition. And Egler said things had reached a tipping point. What do you make of that, Tom?
All of it, it can definitely play into motive. What I would do is even go further, and you start talking to neighbors, you start talking to other family members, you start talking to the school, and see how much of a problem this was domestically in the house that led to this. That all leads up to the motive part. Just doing more and more interviews of people who knew them and might have a firsthand knowledge of this situation.
I also tell you, I think it's going to be tough to argue some sort of mental health defense like insanity, because the fact that if they can prove that she covered it up, it shows that she knows what she did was a crime, it was wrong. But even if she feels justified about it, I get the sense, though, even though they're both brutally murdered, there is a sense of venom and a sense of vitriol when it comes to the boyfriend, right? Not only the shooting, but the stabbing and making him suffer, in a way torturing him as well. Don't you get that sense?
Absolutely. That was, maybe a message. But then again, you don't know, if she didn't run out of ammo or bullets, it might have ended sooner where she didn't need the knife. I think maybe the knife was a backup when she did run out of bullets. But that's like I said, it's a targeted hit, maybe again, planned. Take mom out first and make him suffer for taking, her mom away from her. Getting into a relationship that she's not the focus of her life anymore. There could be, all those factors can play into it.
And like I said, she's been officially indicted for these charges. She's going to be tried as an adult. Do you agree with that in this kind of case?
Absolutely. You have to be, no matter your age, have to be held accountable for your actions. And even further, like we just talked about, the planning of it, the premeditation of it has to be held accountable as an adult. Right.
And obviously defense attorneys would want this to be heard in a juvenile court, because the punishment could be very different. The outcome could be very different. So usually that's about rehabilitation, that's about treatment, that's about mental health treatment. And we've seen cases before where a minor who commits a murder, they ultimately seek treatment in a mental health institution and they could come out one day. And that would not be the case in an adult court. There would be a very severe punishment here. And clearly, even though the death penalty is taken off the table, her chance at ever seeing life outside of four walls of a prison would be very unlikely if this gets tried and convicted. So really, really heinous crime, hard to even think about, but it's going to progress. So Tom Smith, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. And thanks for your time as always.
As always, thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.